I'm sure that you've heard plenty of times about the so-called arch elitists, the sort of people who, if you ask them a question, no matter how complex the question is and how difficult it is to actually answer, you'll just be sent away and be told to read the manual, or you'll just be told to go use a distro for noobs, because obviously Arch Linux is the distro that all of the smart people use. But from what I see, outside of a very, very, very tiny minority, so small in fact that I don't think these people exist, I don't actually know of any of these Arch elitists, and supposedly Arch is full of these people, but from what I see, I don't think that they actually exist. Maybe they did in the past, but at least right now, nowhere that people, I guess, visit frequently do these people actually exist. Maybe they exist on some little forum somewhere hidden on the internet, but at least in the popular places, I don't actually see these people around. The people I do see frequently, though, are the people who like to complain about Arch Linux. So the people who complain about people using Arch, people talking about Arch, people recommending Arch, and all around just being really annoying about just Arch Linux existing in general. And from what I see, anywhere that these complainers visit, the Arch elitists don't seem to be there, so I'm not really sure who they're arguing with. Obviously, there's going to be the people who are memeing about it, but the people who are these supposed actual Arch elitists, they don't seem to exist in the same places. Maybe they've moved on to other distros like Gentoo, Void, or BSD. I have no idea. I'm not involved in any of those communities, so I don't really want to throw them under the bus. Or maybe they just never existed to begin with. If you're someone who likes to use Ubuntu, Red Hat, Debian, Pop! OS, whatever distro it is you want to use in your system, I don't have a problem with you. If you want to do whatever it is you want to do on your system, more power to you. If you don't see really any benefit in switching over to Arch because for whatever reason, whatever Ubuntu or whatever Debian or whatever Pop! OS is doing for you is perfectly fine, and you don't really see any benefit in switching over to something that is a rolling release or that is a minimal install or anything like this, that's entirely fine. I don't really have a problem with people like that. If you want to do whatever it is you want to do on your system, that's cool. The people I have a problem with are that very small minority of those people who are really, really annoying about Arch Linux, and unlike the so-called Arch elitists, they definitely exist, and they are definitely a very, very loud and obnoxious minority. So, I do want to clear something up about Arch Linux for those people who might be watching this video. So, Arch Linux isn't this super complex distro that you have to be a software engineer or a computer scientist to understand. What Arch Linux is, at least at this stage, maybe this was different a few years back, but in 2020, Arch Linux is basically the noob distro for people who have way too much free time on their hands. And the reason for this is actually two of those. So the first one is thanks to Linux creators. So thanks to people who are making daily content about Linux, making daily content about window managers and minimal software and just how to get yourself set up on an Arch system or anything else that is really a minimal install. So the same is going to be true for something like Void Linux, Gentoo, or anything like that, where you're pretty much starting from a TTY and that's basically all you have. And the other thing that really helps out Arch Linux is the fact that it is so incredibly well documented, and this is thanks to all of the people who are working on the Arch Wiki. If you haven't visited the Arch Wiki, even if you're on a distro like Ubuntu, Debian, whatever distro you're on, the Arch Wiki is an absolutely amazing piece of work, and obviously there's going to be some pages specifically related to Arch, like the pages about the AUR or Pac-Man or various things that relate to the Arch system, but for general things, the Arch Wiki is just an amazing resource that anyone can really make use of. But the reason why a lot of new Linux users decide to start using Arch is because there's a lot of Linux creators who use Arch themselves, so they want to use the same thing their favorite creator is using, and obviously I'm one of these Linux creators, but a year ago I was in the same position where I was trying to decide what distro do I want to use, because I've only been using Arch for about a year now, and the reason why I went with Arch is because people like Luke and DT were using it themselves, and I was like, hey, that looks cool, I kind of want to use what they're using. And unlike a distro like Ubuntu, it doesn't hold your hand, but just because it doesn't hold your hand doesn't mean that it's actually difficult. Because it's so well documented, it's actually not that difficult, it's just going to take you a bit of extra time. Obviously, Arch Linux isn't going to be for everyone. Some people just simply don't have the time or the interest in doing all of that configuration, and they just want something that works out of the box because they have some work to get done right now, and they don't really want to spend the time doing that configuration. They just want something that works, and hey, if you want to do that on Linux, that's fine. Use something like Ubuntu with some sort of desktop environment like GNOME or KDE or whatever it is you want to use. that's cool. I don't really have a problem with that. But people who do have that time and people who do have that interest, if they want to share that with people, that isn't an attack against you because you want to use something else. They just like to share it on the internet. Now, one thing I do want to address is something that I shouldn't have to address. It's, by the way, I use Arch. You see this get posted a lot online, and it seems like some people treat this as, I guess, an attack on their character or their ability to use Linux, or as, I guess, a demand that they use Arch rather than whatever it is they want to use themselves. But I know this is going to seem really, really obvious to people who understand this, but by the way I use Arch, okay, I'm going to take this slowly for people who don't understand it, right? By the way I use Arch is a joke, right? It's not an attack on you, it's not an attack on anyone, it's just a joke, or if you want to call it that, it's also a meme. As in, it's not serious. And like with the Arch elitists, maybe at some point in the past, by the way I use Arch was supposed to be a serious thing, but at this point, it's absolutely not. It's just a joke. Stop taking it so seriously. If someone posts, by the way I use Arch, they're just posting a joke, and the reason why they keep posting it is because they know that someone is going to react to it, because they know that as soon as you say, by the way I use Arch, someone is going to pop up and say, Arch Linux is terrible, because they know that they can annoy people like this, so if you stop taking it seriously, people will stop saying it. It's pretty straightforward. Now, what about when it comes to just people not answering questions? Now, you actually do see this happen fairly frequently, but there's a very good reason for this. So usually these sorts of questions that don't get answered are the sort of questions that I can answer by copying the thing that you said is an error and then putting it into a search engine. So if you post an error that says, I'm missing so and so forth dependencies, and you ask, what does this error mean? Literally, the error message says the solution to the problem. So of course people are going to mock you for that because you didn't even try to read what the error says. But if you're going to ask something that I guess is a little bit more complex, so maybe you're asking something about, I don't know, how do I do a split polybar or something like that? Generally people are going to be pretty helpful about that because it's not something that is, I guess, straightforward and obvious as soon as you start using polybar. But if it's something like, I'm missing a dependency, or I don't know, here's some various error message where literally in the error message it says what the solution is, or if you were to copy the error message and then put it into a search engine, you're going to find the solution. For errors like that, of course people are not going to help you because you didn't even try to put the minimal amount of effort into trying to solve the problem yourself. You just instantly went online and tried to ask the solution of it. What do you expect to happen? Obviously, people very well could help you with the problem, but what about next time? What about the time after that, and the time after that, and the time after that? If you don't put in the basic effort to try to help yourself, you're just going to keep coming back and asking very, very basic questions that really there's no point asking, because if it says the solution to the problem, well, why are you asking how to fix the problem? You're being told how to fix it. You're just not putting in the effort to actually read what it says. So instead of just telling you what the solution is, people are basically telling you, go work out the solution yourself because it will take you 10 seconds to work out. Obviously, some people probably could come off in, I guess, a nicer way than they are doing it. But really, for something like that, it's entirely your fault that you're suffering from this problem. So now it's time for a bit of armchair psychology to try and explain, I guess, why some people feel this way about Arch, Gentoo, Void, and various other sort of minimal installations like this. And I think that the most obvious reason is that there's some sort of inferiority complex about the distro that they decided to use themselves. So whether that be Ubuntu, Debian, Pop! OS, regardless of what it is, they feel, I guess, that their distro is inferior and that they need to, I guess, justify why they decided to pick their distro by attacking other people who actually do put in the effort to try and learn one of these more, I guess, time-consuming distros, because none of these distros are hard to use. But I guess a time sink is still a very valuable piece of effort you can actually put into learning something. So rather than trying to improve upon themselves and, I guess, be happy with the distro that they're using themselves, or even try out one of these other distros, instead what they'll do is actually go and attack people who do put in the effort. Or maybe it's simply that they don't understand that it's a meme and that they think that the Arch users are being entirely serious when they say, by the way, I use Arch, blah, 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 blah. I think that's also very possible as well. If it's not an inferiority complex, I guess it's very possible that these people just don't understand that it's a joke. That's also very possible as well. And obviously, I have no idea. I'm not a psychologist. I'm barely a software engineer. So this is kind of just my thoughts about it. And if you take nothing else away from this video, except for this last point, stop caring what other people actually use on their system. And this isn't just true in relation to Arch Linux or in relation to desktop environments or in relation to anything software related. This is true really in most aspects of your life. For most things, what someone else uses or what someone else does doesn't really affect you. So for example, if someone wants to use Electron wrapped applications because they want to have desktop applications for their favorite websites, that's entirely fine. I know that you might not like that, but it doesn't really matter that you don't like that. If someone wants to do that on their system, that's entirely fine. If they want to use a window manager and you want to use a desktop environment, that's cool. If you want to use KDE and they use GNOME, no problem there. Feel free to use whatever it is you want to use. And if someone uses Arch Linux and you use Ubuntu, that's entirely fine. Usually I don't really care about how people feel on this, but really just stop fighting over literally nothing. You are fighting an enemy that does not exist. So I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say in today's video, but before I go, I want to thank my patrons. So a special thank you to Joachim, Craig, Nathan, Andrew, Montazar, P.D. Road, Tony, Donald, and Silver. If you want to join the Patreon, there'll be a link to that down below, as well as my Amazon affiliate links where you can buy the gear using this channel, or anything else you want, and I would a small kickback for it. Also, remember to check out my podcast. That is Tech Over Tea, available on Library and YouTube, and the audio version available wherever you listen to audio podcasts. Also, remember to check out this channel available on Library, BitTube, and BitChute, and remember to smash the like button and leave me a comment down below, and remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below as well. So I think that's pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.